More of the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Welcome back in. Time in our Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, 441. I was in an irate mood yesterday because I was waking up and I was driving back here to our Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios getting ready for work. And I saw this story about the reason why you saw some discipline in the first quarter of the Jets game with Sheldon Richardson and Muhammad Wilkerson was because both of those players are habitually late to meetings. I just can't believe that. You have a football team that's been embarrassing this year, and two of your better players aren't showing up. Maybe that's the reason why the Jets aren't having such a good season. And the man that broke that story did a tremendous job, covers the Jets on a daily basis for NJ.com, is Connor Hughes, who joins us right now. Connor, Zach Gelb, appreciate a few minutes, and how are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well, too.
Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. So I was on that teleconference yesterday with Todd Bowles and the media, and I was a little bit surprised that, I know Todd Bowles isn't the most loquacious guy in the world, but I was surprised that he didn't give a reason why Richardson and Wilkerson were out other than a coach's decision in that first quarter. Why is Todd Bowles defending these two players right now and not being a little bit more transparent with the media?
I think it's from his point of view and from a player's point of view, it looks good from that avenue because, again, if you're a player and you get in trouble, obviously, the Jets handled it in a way that they felt was appropriate. They presumably fined the guys, and they obviously suspended them for the start of or benched them for the start of this game, and they're handling it that way. And, by Todd coming out and confirming everything himself other than saying we handle it in-house and saying, Sheldon missed 6 meetings last week or so-and-so missed this or so-and-so didn't show up for this. By him keeping it in-house and saying we're handling it in-house, it kind of keeps, in his mind, I guess, keeps the fire from spreading a bit. And it also helps him stay on the good side of his players because his players know that it's not like the coach is going to go rat him out to the media and cause all these issues in the public perception. The player knows what he did, the coach knows what he did, and the coach punished the player for it. So I get it from that point of view because, again, Todd's going to handle it in-house. The leaks are going to get out the way the leaks get out, but he's not going to do anything to throw more brush there on the fire.
But, Connor, I understand if you want to be a player's coach, but you have to decipher being a player's coach and a doormat. I know he talked about reality, but the optics of this one, you have two of your better players not showing up. That shows me a lack of disrespect. I understand these players are agitated with how the season's going, but I wonder if Todd Bowles has control of this team and if his players respect him because those are two of the better players, and they're not even showing up. That's a bad sign.
No, it's a bad look. I mean, there's absolutely no denying that. It's a horrible look for this team, for Todd Bowles, for Mike Maccagnan, and more importantly for Sheldon Richardson and Muhammad Wilkerson. Again, this is a guy, Muhammad Wilkerson, who just got paid, got a brand new $86 million contract over 5 years, and now he's not showing up. So he sits there and he complains and he moans and he groans about not having money and not being paid. Then he gets paid, and suddenly he's not showing up for meetings and skipping workouts, which is not a good sign. And then Sheldon is a guy who wants the same contract and wants the same money, if not more, than Mo got. And from a play point of view, he's probably deserving of it because, again, he is a guy that's probably, from an athletic point of view, more talented than Muhammad Wilkerson. So he's going to be a guy that eventually, if he keeps his nose out of trouble, gets that kind of money. But now he's out here missing and skipping meetings at the same time. So it's a bad look for both of them. And I actually talked to somebody today who's very involved within the league, a source I have within the league. And I said, look, does this news that's now out there about Sheldon Richardson hurt his value? And the guy said, he goes, absolutely. He goes, no doubt, because now you have a guy that's sitting there saying, I want money, I want money, I want money. And instead of doing everything he possibly can to get money, he's skipping meetings. And that's not a good look. So from what this guy told me, is that you're now looking at a situation where this guy wants money, he's doing everything he can to get money, and he's skipping meetings. Well, what's going to happen when he gets paid? That's just a bad look all around. And collectively, does everybody disrespect Todd Bowles in that locker room? I can't say. I made a few phone calls, and I asked, has he lost the locker room? Because obviously Todd's not going to say he lost the locker room, and players publicly are not going to say they lost the locker room. I talked to a couple of people that I know. They said no, they're still behind Todd. They still believe in Todd. It's not like the inmates are running the asylum yet, but this thing keeps losing. This thing keeps spiraling out of control. Who knows? Who knows how bad this is going to get? But at least right now, it seems like this is I don't want to say isolated incident because it's happened multiple times, but it doesn't look like this is a situation yet that has caused everything to go crazy. But look, man, you hit the nail right on the head. It's not a good look. It's not a good look for anyone involved. Not Mike McCagnon, who gave Muhammad Wilkerson the big contract. Not Todd Bowles, who has allowed this to go on, and certainly not Sheldon Richardson and Muhammad Wilkerson, who view themselves as leaders of this team, and they're out there doing this.
You cover the team. You're there every day, so you have a better perspective than myself. We talk about how Todd Bowles allowed this to go on and the Jets allowed this to go on. Mike Garafolo had that report about the birthday cake and the team meeting before the Ravens game. Why did it take so long to finally have some form of discipline that we were able to see on the field?
It's everybody has different ways of disciplining when it comes to team meetings. It could be a fine that was the issue. It could have been something where, all right, we're just finding the guys, and you keep taking the fines and keep taking the fines. I mean, it was a couple years ago when Plaxico Burress was with the Giants. He was late every other day. I mean, I think some story came out back then that he had been fined like an absurd amount of times by Tom Coughlin for being late to meetings. They never benched him. He just constantly got fined. So teams have different ways of punishing for this kind of actions. Now, the fact that these guys were missing things altogether is what's a big damning sign. But from what Mike's report said is that, look, there were other people within this locker room that were suddenly starting to question why nothing was happening, why these guys were allowed to get away with murder. And I've heard some of the similar things. I've heard similar things from other people that I've talked to, that there were several players in that locker room that were saying to themselves, well, why the heck? Why are these guys not showing up and we're not performing? It's not like Mo and Sheldon were out there dominating teams and having tremendous seasons, so they were kind of getting away with it. These guys have, 3.5, 4 sacks between the two of them, so they're struggling on the field. They're not showing up for meetings. It's a bad look. And why it was allowed to continue to go on, who knows? But it looks like the reasoning behind the benching and why the benching finally happened is because Todd Bowles finally got to the point where he had to do something, whether he wanted to or not. And because unfortunately he won't talk on the record about it or talk to anybody about it in person. There's not going to be any more light shed.
Connor Hughes with us from NJ.com talking about this Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson mess. Going into the year, if you would have told me Todd Bowles would have a possibility of losing his job at the end of the season, I would have said you're crazy, but this is how bad the season's been. And when you see a lack of effort from these two players, especially in New York, the fans are going to get frustrated and they won't tolerate it. And Woody Johnson, he does listen to the fans, whether that's a good thing or not. I'm not one to say. What are the chances Bowles loses his job at the end of the season? Like, what's the bare minimum that he has to do to keep his job this year?
I don't see it happening. I know Woody Johnson actually came out and made a few comments a couple weeks ago saying they're safe. He still believes in them. I don't believe the Jets are going to pull the plug off of Todd after a year. Next year, if there are still issues and these issues are still coming out, then I could see maybe a change being made because then he would have had 3 seasons and it went downhill each of the years and he never really turned it together. But, it's some of the things that have gone wrong with the Jets you really couldn't have realistically predicted. I mean, the regression of Ryan Fitzpatrick has been everybody kind of figured maybe he wasn't going to be as good as last year, but how bad how bad he's been is not something many expected. That's a big reason for them losing. I mean, they have nothing from the quarterback position. The secondary has been dreadful. You can't really predict that much of a decline from Darrelle Revis, and Calvin Pryor just hasn't progressed, and Marcus Gilchrist hasn't been good, and Marcus Williams and Buster Skrine have been bad. I mean, it's just a lot of things have added together, and the Jets were an old team. The Jets were a veteran team last year. This year, they're an old team, and the transition from veteran to old, I think, happened quicker than expected. I don't think Todd's on the high. I don't think his seat's warm. I don't think that would happen until next year. Maybe if the Jets lost out and they lost all of these remaining games and finished 3-13 and everything just went crazy, then maybe Woody would be enticed to make a change. And I'm talking like everything would have to go wrong where, the defense gets even worse. There are more missed team meetings or fights. Just everything would have to go wrong, and they would have to lose out, in my opinion, for Todd to lose his job. But I don't think that's going to happen. The Jets are probably going to win a couple games here. They'll finish 6-10, 7-9, somewhere around those lines. And I think Todd will be back next year. But next year he'll start the season with his seat warm. Where if the Jets don't make the playoffs in year 3 of this competitive rebuild, then I think you'll see some changes.
And with Todd, he's better find the way to beat the Rams and the 49ers. If you lose both those games, you better find the way to at least split one, because if you don't split and you go 0-2, then things are definitely going to continue to go south for him. You mentioned Fitzpatrick. I know he's optimistic that he'll play this week. Todd Bowles said on that teleconference call yesterday that if he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. And this is a lost season. We all know that. I know the coach may not want to admit that publicly. Why do they continue to be this loyal to Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I think it's partially because they don't have another option right now. I mean, they know Bryce Petty. I understand. He's a flashy name. He's the backup quarterback, so he's everybody's favorite player right now. But Ryan Fitzpatrick still does give the Jets their best chance to win. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, he is their best option on the roster. And until they are eliminated from the playoffs, they're going to stick with their best chance to win games on the roster. So, in my opinion, I don't think the Jets are going to win this weekend of the Rams. I think that defense is going to be enough to shut down the offense, and the St. Louis or L.A. St. Louis, L.A. will do enough to get it done. In my opinion, I think you're going to make the change from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Bryce Petty. In a couple weeks, you'll give Fitzpatrick this game against the Rams. I think you'll give Fitzpatrick the game out of the bye, and the only reason I say that is because their game out of the bye is against the Patriots. Yeah, and you don't want to start you don't want to start Bryce Petty in his first NFL game against the Patriots. But if the Jets lose this game against the Rams to drop to 3-7, then lose to the Patriots as expected and go to 3-8, then you start Bryce Petty for the first game there against the Colts, which is a relatively easy opponent and one that's kind of a good get your feet set in the NFL game. So. Are they loyal to Ryan Fitzpatrick? Yes, but the reason that they're loyal to Ryan Fitzpatrick is they don't really have any other option on the roster right now. I mean, their loyalty was tested when they benched him. I mean, they pulled the plug on Ryan Fitzpatrick 2 weeks ago to start Geno Smith, and then Geno Smith tore his ACL. So, we'll see what happens from here on out when they make a switch. But I think a switch is coming. It's just a matter of when.
I know experience was a factor in that because at least Geno Smith has played some snaps in the National Football League. He was the starter until he got punched in the locker room and broke his jaw last year. Another Jet story that you can't even make up and write the script on this one. If they were willing to go to Geno Smith, though, why not just go to Bryce Petty? I don't believe Bryce Petty's going to be this transcendent player. I don't think he's this special player. But if you were willing to go to Geno Smith, to me, I don't see that much difference between Geno Smith and Bryce Petty in that thought.
Well, what I think the Jets were going to is that Geno Smith is Geno Smith is a better player than Bryce Petty in the sense that he's got game experience and he looked good before getting punched and he did some things and he brings some things to the table. In my opinion, it was going to be the same situation for the Jets with Geno Smith as it would have been with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They turned the table on Ryan Fitzpatrick. They said, we're done putting Geno Smith in. Geno Smith was going to be the starting quarterback of the Jets until they were out of the playoff picture. So once the Jets got to 8 or 9 losses, Smith was going to be yanked, and they were going to put Bryce Petty in. I think that has always been the plan, was that they were going to when they yanked Ryan Fitzpatrick originally, there was still hope for the playoffs. They felt Geno Smith was the better option to get them to the playoffs for whatever reason, whatever they believe. They thought Geno Smith was the better option. They put Geno Smith in there. Their hope was that Smith was either going to ignite a playoff run or he was going to, well, not that they were hoping this, but if he was going to be bad and keep losing, they were going to yank the plug on him once the playoffs were completely out of question, and then they would start Bryce Petty. Because, look, I mean, in my opinion, you can't get any worse than Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point in time, so why not throw Bryce Petty out there? But, the Jets who see these guys every single day in the meeting rooms and in practice and all those things, they feel it's still Fitzpatrick, so that is their thinking and why they're keeping with Fitz.
Connor, before we let you run, and Richardson's just so stupid, especially with what happened with the suspension to start the year, and you have someone in the car, a kid driving 140 miles an hour, everyone reeking like marijuana. You would think that he would be a noble and a model citizen right now and do everything right, every little detail, and that's not the case clearly because he's showing up late. Now, that's not criminal, but he should do his job as a professional. With Wilkerson, though, he got money, and the way it looks like, and we talked about this a little bit, is that he's mailing it in. Only 2.5 sacks. I'll give you a chance to defend Muhammad Wilkerson. Is there any defense for the factor in his play, or is this guy just mailing it in?
No, it's completely inexcusable. I mean, I have no defense for Mo in this. I mean, he sat there and he was mad and he was angry for the better part of 2 or 3 years. Anytime he talked saying, I want to be paid, had that huge interview with the New York media member where he talked in length about how he felt disrespected and he wasn't getting what he deserved. Well, The Jets give him what he deserves, $86 million, a long-term contract, $40 million guaranteed is what I believe it was. And now he's missing meetings. I mean, this is a guy that is one of the top 5 players on this roster, a guy that a lot of the younger players on the roster look up to, a supposed quote-unquote team leader. He's the guy who's supposed to be 15, 30 minutes early to these meetings. He's the guy that's supposed to be the first one in, last one out. He's supposed to be the guy that is in there talking to everybody and getting everybody pumped up and being the model citizen. And he's packing it in on the field. I mean, the guy has been, injury aside, I know he's been dealing with a little ankle injury. He hasn't been very good on the field. And then outside of not being very good on the field, he doesn't talk to the media at all after games when people are looking for answers and fans are looking for answers. He completely ignores that, walks out and acts very childish at times there. And now he's missing meetings and showing up late to meetings and skipping walkthroughs. I mean, that is not what you look for in a team leader. That's not what you look for in a guy that's supposed to be one of the top players on this roster. And unfortunately, you see the trickle-down effect. Sheldon's missing meetings. Well, from Sheldon's point of view, well, if Mo's not doing it, why do I have to do it? And then, not that this has happened, but Leonard Williams could then look at that and say, well, these guys aren't there, and I'm playing better than the two of them, so why do I have to show up on time for meetings? So it's that trickle-down effect of
contagious.
These are two guys. Yeah, it's these two guys that are, who everyone's supposed to be looking up to. They're not doing it, so why does anybody else have to do it? It's a bad look, and unfortunately for a guy that just got paid and was just given all this money and financial security, for him not to be doing it, it's just there is no excuse for it.
A+ of an answer, because if it was anything different, I would have ripped you, Connor. A great job, really. Good job on this scoop. I enjoyed listening to you yesterday and reading it on NJ.com. Continue to do a great job covering the Jets, and hopefully one day you'll have something positive to write, maybe.
Yeah, I've been waiting 3 years for that, man. Been on this beat 3 years, and I'm still waiting.
Well, as a Patriot fan, I can't say I'm actually saddened by it. Connor, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Anytime.
Thanks so much. Connor Hughes joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. I said enough about this. I really did. I ranted about it yesterday. There's no excuse for it. The coach should publicly shame him. You can't be consistently showing up late time after time for meetings. There's small things. You're supposed to be there. It's not that tough. You get paid a whole lot of money. Get your ass to the facility when the coach says so. Until then, Jet fans will be just saying, just end the season, and it will be same old Jets, and it will be a joke. Accountability. Look it up. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey, 609-919-9200. Time right now in the Princeton Orthopedic Associates Studios, 4:59. We got to take a break, top of the hour break, and we'll be back with hour number 2. We'll give you an answer to the poll question. And then, of course, Donald Trump, or is it Joe Conklin? We'll see who joins us at 5:15.